The parking lot was like an oven that sweltering day, the heat oppressive as it radiated from the asphalt. I spotted a dog in a car, furiously panting behind the glass. Frantic, I searched for the owner, but no one appeared. Desperate, I returned to the car, gripping a rock and smashed the window, hoping to rescue him. But as I reached in, the dog wouldn't budge, his gaze fixed on the back seat with an intensity I couldn't ignore. I charged towards the car as fast as I could, heart racing with worry about the poor dog. People were everywhere, walking around going about their day, but oddly, no one seemed to notice what was happening. My mind was shouting, "Help him!" But I was alone in this urgency. Each second felt critical, like the clock was ticking too fast. I wondered how no one else saw the dog furiously panting inside, struggling to breathe. Close up, I could see the dog, still panting continuously like he couldn't catch his breath at all. It was painful to watch. My eyes darted around the parking lot, desperately looking for the car owner. Where were they? It was like they had vanished into thin air. I honestly hoped someone would suddenly appear, claiming the poor dog, but all I saw were cars and people passing by unaware. My hand felt the heat of the rock I held tighter. I raised it, ready to aim at the car window. Around me, some passers-by finally paused. They watched the scene unfolding, but didn't do anything to help. It's like they were watching a TV show instead of real life. I took a deep breath, understanding I had to act quickly. The dog's life depended on getting through that window. With a strong swing, the window shattered loudly, sending glass pieces flying everywhere. I didn't waste any time and immediately tried to coax the dog out. "Come on, boy," I urged, but oddly enough, he simply wouldn't budge from his spot. He stood frozen, almost like he couldn't hear me. My calls seemed useless, and I was starting to worry more. The dog was focused, eyes locked on something else. No matter how much I pleaded, the dog simply refused to move. His body stayed tense, eyes glued somewhere else. I looked around and noticed the curious stares of people. They were judging without understanding the whole story. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but all I wanted was to help. The situation was puzzling. It didn't make sense why the dog wouldn't respond or escape. What puzzled me more than anything was the dog's complete unwillingness to leave. I kept asking myself, why isn't he moving? It was like he was frozen in place by something. His distraction or whatever had him focused was more important than the open window. I knew I had to figure out what was going on with this stubborn dog because sitting there was dangerous in that heat. I leaned in closer, trying to understand what was happening with this stubborn dog. Inside the car, the heat felt suffocating. I stopped feeling frustrated and shifted to being more concerned about his safety. Now, this wasn't just about getting him out. It was about understanding why he was so glued there. My eyes scanned the car again, looking for any clues about what had his attention. I peered closely inside, curious about the dog's unwavering focus. He wasn't just distracted. His gaze was intense, locked on the back seat. It seemed strange and deliberate. I wondered what could possibly be hiding back there. Something was clearly more important to him than the open escape route. I decided to investigate further to see if I could find what held his attention so strongly. Curiosity piqued, and I shifted my position to get a better look inside that backseat area. Sweat ran down my face, mixing with the grime from the car. The heat was oppressive, but I had to try to understand this loyal dog's refusal to leave. It was about more than just the heat or the shattered window. It felt like there was something deeper in this ordinary car ride. I stood there puzzled as I watched the dog's whiskers barely twitch. It was as if he was holding his breath, which seemed really weird. Something odd hung in the air. I squinted, trying to see if there was anything in the back seat that the dog was looking at. It was hard to pinpoint exactly what was going on, but I knew there had to be a reason for his unusual stillness. The heat from the sun was almost unbearable, and I felt sweat trickling down my back. Every moment counted, and I knew I had to be quick. Looking inside the car, it felt like something crucial was slipping through my fingers. Something didn't sit right with me about the whole scene. My instincts screamed that there was more to the story here, something important I wasn't seeing. I felt pressured to act fast, but the dog just seemed disconnected from my hurry. His lack of response wasn't just him being stubborn. There was a deeper thing, something more serious than I was realizing. As I called for him, his eyes stayed glued to whatever held him in the back seat. I couldn't help but wonder what held such an important pull in this intense situation. Slowly, a group of people started to gather around me, whispering and watching curiously. They seemed suspicious and unsure about what I was doing. The whole place shimmered with heat waves, making everything look wobbly and indistinct, like a mirage. The intense sun made it hard to see clearly, but I focused on staying on task. I had to keep figuring out what was going on with the dog. My mind was racing, sifting through options like a rapid slideshow. I considered calling the authorities, but worried it could take too long, leaving the dog to suffer in the heat. I felt the pressure of time bearing down on me. The dog's situation was urgent, and waiting for someone else to solve it seemed risky. I needed to think on my feet and make the best decision quickly. Returning to the task at hand, I focused hard on the dog's attention to the back seat. Something in there must have been drawing him irresistibly, like a magnet pulling at his senses. I tried to look for whatever he saw that I couldn't immediately notice. Despite the chatter and heat, I was determined to uncover the hidden reason behind his alertness to whatever lay back there. Taking a deep breath, I leaned even closer, trying to see whatever the dog was so laser-focused on. Out of the blue, the blare of a siren approached from a distance, grabbing my attention momentarily. I turned my head briefly, the shrill noise inevitably breaking my concentration. It required my acknowledgement, but didn't pull me completely from my concern for unraveling this intriguing puzzle. Despite those sirens, I was still mostly drawn towards understanding the dog's stubborn gaze. A woman came over, talking. She asked quickly, "Do you need help, or did you already call someone?" I shook my head. Though I felt uncertain, any help was welcome. Yet, I felt like my mission to solve the mystery of his focus had just become a shared one with her joining in. Catching a breath, I nodded at her offer of help, ready to accept any support. My thoughts still spun around the mystery lingering in the car. The dog's unwavering focus on whatever was in that back seat hinted at something bigger. As the puzzle grew, so did my resolve to get to the bottom of it. I couldn't let go of the feeling that there was more at stake here. The sirens were screaming closer, the wailing sound crescendoing as a police vehicle and animal control rolled onto the scene. Officers stepped out, assessing the situation with cautious eyes. Their presence offered some relief, but also a reminder of the seriousness of the moment. I saw them sharing information and glancing at the car, preparing to join in solving this enigma with their professional expertise. As the rescuers approached the car, they moved with careful caution, surveying the situation to grasp the details. Their arrival seemed to shift the crowd's gaze from me and back to the car. The presence of trained professionals gave me a sense of relief, like handing over a responsibility I was carrying alone. People murmured around us, but the attention on me felt lighter as the rescuers studied the scene. Despite all the commotion, the dog remained fixated, not moving a muscle. It was like he was in a world of his own, completely focused on the back seat. A police officer approached me, gently signaling for me to step aside. "Let's take a look here," he said, taking charge of the unfolding operation while I watched anxiously, hoping they'd find a way to help the distressed dog. I tried to explain to the officers about the dog's odd behavior. "He keeps looking at the back seat like there's something there," I said, pointing hopefully. They listened, though I could sense a blend of doubt and professionalism in their expressions. It seemed like they were unsure of my nonsensical-sounding claim, but took it seriously enough to check things out thoroughly. Suddenly, the tone shifted when some officers started considering my actions as potential trespass. The tension was thick, but I kept my focus on explaining the dog's peculiar behavior. "I was only trying to help," I stressed with sincerity. The pressing worry about the dog's condition kept me rooted, eager to see if my hunch about his behavior would be cleared up. I felt like there had to be a reason behind everything happening. The rescuers gathered, talking over their next steps with whispered urgency. After a brief discussion, they appeared to settle on a plan. Knowing professionals were guiding the process gave the crowd some reassurance. The move was swift. Each person seemed to operate with a clear goal in mind, which brought a hint of calm to the chaos. Nearby officers began scanning the lot for any sign of the missing car owner, while a few responders circled back to the dog. They approached cautiously, examining him for any distress or injury signs. The dog looked unhurt, aside from the obvious heat stress. "Someone check inside," an officer called. The responders nodded, assessing him carefully, and I watched, hoping they could make sense of the situation. My heart raced as I stood by, watching them take deliberate steps toward the car. Their experience was palpable in the careful way they handled the situation. "We need medical attention for this one of them instructed into a radio, while others nodded in agreement. I was glad they were stepping in to help the dog, hoping that their efforts would soon solve the mystery before us. Another officer approached, ready to ask me some questions. "Can you tell me what happened?" he inquired directly. I took a breath, recounting everything from spotting the dog to the moment I broke the window. I laid it all out plainly, emphasizing my only aim was to help. The officer nodded thoughtfully, jotting down notes and listening intently to my side of events. I tried to underline to the officers that dogs have instincts and rarely act without cause. "There's got to be a reason he won't move," I insisted, while they considered the details. Time ticked on slowly, each minute feeling like an hour. The officers seemed diligent, keen to uncover what could be the mystery. Meanwhile, I waited, hopeful for that impending breakthrough. A detective arrived on the scene, quickly assessing with a focus on the small details. His presence stirred a mix of relief and curiosity within me. "Let's piece together your involvement from the beginning," he prompted, listening as I reiterated the timeline. His questions were sharp, pressing for clarity in my account. It felt like each answer might steer us closer to understanding what was actually happening here. Telling the detective about everything felt oddly relieving, like every little detail mattered. It was an assurance that this puzzle might finally be solved. He listened carefully, nodding now and then while jotting notes. But with each tick of the clock, the urgency hung heavily in the air, like an invisible weight pressing down on us. Everyone wanted answers, and the search kept feeling like an endless loop of questions. The detective paced around the scene, eyes sharp and focused. He examined the car door, giving special attention to the locks and window mechanisms. It was clear that his mind was processing a lot. His expertise was something everyone counted on at this moment. I watched as his methodical approach began to reveal more layers to this mystery, with hope that his investigation might uncover the truth soon. As the detective paused to gather thoughts, the officers began discussing possible explanations for the dog's behavior. It felt like each idea brought us a little closer to understanding this bizarre situation. Meanwhile, I hovered nearby, ears wide open, hoping that they'd figure it out soon. Each theory was tossed around, with everyone contributing a piece to the conversation, looking for that elusive clue. Suddenly, one of the responders called everyone's attention to something inside the car. An air of urgency filled the atmosphere as officers crowded around the vehicle. It seemed like they uncovered something significant. Even the detectives' demeanor shifted as they assessed the newfound detail, covering every angle meticulously, knowing that each new piece might lead us closer to the explanation we desperately needed. The newfound information led them to focus more on the back seat, prompting a deeper probe into what lay there. Their vigilance intensified every minute. The dispersing crowd stayed curious, keeping their distance yet eager for any developments. Each glance and whispered remark spoke of the shared hope for answers, wondering if we were inching closer to solving the case that puzzled everyone for so long. Everyone involved could feel the ticking clock, their actions fueled by a pressing need to uncover the truth. The officers and rescue teams worked in tandem, pulling everyone into an unspoken agreement of intent focus. Each pair of eyes seemed to move instinctively, recognizing the importance of every moment that passed. The air was thick with expectation as everyone awaited the unveiling of the mysterious hold the back seat seemed to have. Preparedness showed as they gathered specific tools, ready to meticulously work through the car's details. Each effort was calculated, aiming to uncover hints that might lead us to the truth. The structured endeavor moved forward determinedly, approaching the moment of revelation with painstaking care. Meanwhile, I stood by, my curiosity piqued, feeling like we were getting closer, but still needing that final, crucial piece of the puzzle. News spread quickly that the dogs were unharmed, offering a collective breath of relief to everyone waiting. It reassured me, knowing they were doing all right. The investigation, however, took much longer than expected, a testament to the thoroughness of everyone involved. But as they confirmed their safety, it was clear the course was still set on unraveling the mystery lingering in the car's back seat. One responder began gently checking the back seat, uncovering something unexpected. Everyone's anticipation seemed to amplify with each second, as if we were collectively leaning in. The intensity spike was palpable. Whatever information was hidden back there, its discovery felt pivotal. It was like we all held our breath, waiting for the critical reveal that would finally make sense of the dog's behavior. Officers engaged in quick, subdued discussions before addressing the crowd that had gathered. They organized us neatly, preparing to share essential news gleaned from their findings. The collective anticipation mirrored an emotional tide rising and falling in unison. I felt my ears perk up, ready to grasp the long-awaited answers. In that charged moment, everyone prepared themselves for clarity on this puzzling incident. Standing there felt like time slowed down, extending each second into an eternity. My feet were rooted to the spot, watching the dog's unwavering stance as if reflecting my patience. The air buzzed with more waiters, each whispering stranger adding to the shared anticipation. The dog's loyalty shone through his steadfast position, a silent testament to something important hidden behind that glass. The officer began to speak, detailing the situation with straightforward clarity. "Here's what we know," he started, listing the facts they had gathered. While the puzzle wasn't solved, his words provided a glimmer of hope. Realizing progress was being made gave everyone a little boost of determination. Even though it wasn't much, knowing they were closer to understanding kept spirits up. The officer's findings piqued curiosity among the more experienced police present. There was talk of moving the case to a higher level, suggesting a big breakthrough might be brewing. Witnessing their growing interest fueled a collective excitement. The important clues seemed just around the corner, waiting to be unearthed. It felt like this might be the moment when everything finally began to make a little more sense. Very carefully, the officers explored further, discovering something unusual: a hidden compartment in the car. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as they approached it with the care of stepping onto a fragile bridge. Each cautious movement suggested that whatever lay inside could be significant. Everyone leaned in, waiting impatiently as they prepared to search deeper within that panel's mysterious confines. With deft hands, they retrieved an object from the compartment, noting its secrecy in hushed tones. "We'll need a closer look," one officer remarked, his voice low but secure. They whispered about its potential importance, considering possible owner involvement. As they informed me quietly, I realized that what they found might change everything. It was a discovery that required careful handling and sharp awareness. The evidence they found suggested there might be more to this than anyone realized. The air was filled with tension, hinting at a possible deliberate trap. Their discovery seemed to have far-reaching implications, broadening the scope of their investigation in a big way. It begged the question: what else could have been hiding in plain sight, waiting to unravel something significant and possibly risky? A crackle on the radio signaled new information as the dispatcher announced they were closing in on the vehicle's records. It seemed like one more piece of the puzzle was nearly in hand. They quickly shared the details with other teams and prepared to take further steps. The crisp updates pushed everyone to stay focused, highlighting the need for speed in this ongoing mystery. They called in a special unit as the investigation gained depth and complexity. Their methodical approach was clear as they tackled each new twist in the mystery. With new challenges surfacing, their unyielding attention led to a sense of unraveling what seemed counterintuitive. Despite the layers and hurdles, there was a sense of relief knowing every aspect was being meticulously explored. During all of this, the dog's behavior persisted, remaining stubbornly fixed in place. While surprising, his resolve was unmistakable. His actions hinted at deeper insight, gradually shedding light on the underlying truth. With every passing moment, it became more apparent that there was an unknown storyline intertwining from the shadows, waiting to unfold precisely when the time was right. As the late afternoon sun cast long shadows, officers kept managing the growing crowd. They aimed to keep control amid the rising chaos surrounding the heated environment. The dog stayed motionless beside all efforts, reinforcing his enigmatic stance. The layered narrative of this unfolding drama slowly came to a head, driven by determined efforts and guided by the searching beams of daylight. Around us, volunteers worked tirelessly, each with their own role to play. They moved swiftly, helping the officers by watching the crowd and directing traffic. Each helper seemed intrigued, keenly observing the people and the scene at hand. Those gathered often whispered questions, sharing theories. Their combined curiosity felt like an engine, powering the search for answers. The volunteers shared a common eagerness to find out what had captivated the dogs so intensely. The commotion started to settle, like a storm slowly passing. Officers moved in, speaking to the crowd. "Please stay calm," one officer said, his voice carrying a promise of safety. The shared anticipation eased a bit, bringing a sense of relief to those waiting for news. It felt like things were moving forward, and soon we'd have the answers we were all desperately seeking. Despite the changes around him, the dog's loyalty was unshaken, a reminder of how pets often know more than we think. The officers, inspired by the dog's behavior, started to piece together the situation. It was clear they recognized something unusual about this particular dog. With developing interest, they focused on solving the mystery, eager to learn what drove the pup's intense watchfulness. As the search continued, we all grew more aware of the depth of the situation. The officers and I, despite no easy answers, knew something significant bound everything together. We waited, emotions tied to the mystery that seemed just out of reach. Mindful of every clue, we prepared ourselves for the next deliberate step, drawing nearer to a solution previously unseen. This was the moment we had been waiting for, the part where everything starts making sense. It seemed like forever, yet the final pieces were aligning. We stood on the edge, where expectations ran high. Anxiety mixed with hope simmered quietly around us. With everyone rooting for the story to unfold, the officers aimed to bridge the gaps, fulfilling the mounting suspense everyone felt. A breakthrough came as officers received fresh data about the car, its registered owner. This was critical, suggesting a new direction and mustering renewed interest. Their attention shifted as they sought out more information, ready to notify the owner. The name associated with the car provided leads necessary to push the investigation forward. Each contact they made was a weave in the story, tightening the mystery. The officers dove deep into the collected data, analysing details like fingerprints. These small pieces held power. Could they break open our mystery? Each possibility spun out an intricate line of inquiry. The promise of significant breakthroughs rode on methodical actions. As they probed further, the stakes only grew higher, inviting everyone to watch profoundly as the story unravelled. While the officers conducted searches, something shifted in the dog's demeanor. Gradually, his stance relaxed, hinting at hope. His loyalty and instincts remained clear, tempered by moments of kindness from rescuers. Dialogue unfolded amongst those watching as they held questions and awaited revealing hints demanded in our immediate future. Each interaction was pivotal in revealing what was to come. As decisions about the investigation's future took shape, It pulled everyone together. Unified by understanding, those present acknowledged the moment's weight. Officers reviewed pivotal clues in their hands, examining from all angles. By engaging this shared challenge, they expanded the group's comprehension, gearing towards an unfolding realization eagerly anticipated. Each choice made helped clear the fog around the mystery hidden plainly. Reports surfaced, covering new findings that strengthened the case's background. Officers shared insights learned, stretching the story's continuity across community lines. As the puzzle pieced together slowly, it honored the scope of what transpired. New meetings arose to discuss the shared impact. It felt like fresh plans were coming, ready to open this dramatic investigation to its ultimate conclusion right before our eyes. The officers seemed to be trying hard to balance all the different voices and actions happening around the car. Everyone wanted to help the dog, but the officers needed to keep things safe and organised. It looked like a teamwork effort where everyone had a role to play. They used clear signals so nobody would get in the way. It really showed how working together could help fix a tough situation quickly. An officer suddenly exclaimed, "There's a puppy in the back seat!" Everyone gasped. The dog's focus now made perfect sense. He was protecting the little one. It amazed us to realize such loyalty. The puppy looked tired, but had a bit of energy to wag a small tail. While the dog had been so still, he stayed committed to keeping the puppy safe. This surprising find was both a relief and a touching revelation. Once they confirmed the puppy was all right, people looked relieved and a bit teary-eyed. Sure enough, the officer brought the puppy out, carrying it gently. The small crowd murmured with surprise and relief. In that moment, the dog's behaviour was suddenly clear. Everyone seemed touched by how the dog was so focused on being protective. Then, to add another twist, a person arrived claiming ownership of the car and the dogs. The car's owner appeared teary-eyed and visibly stressed. "I'm so sorry," they started, sharing how they had adopted the puppy just days ago, saving him from being abandoned. Everything had happened so fast. They genuinely intended to help this young pup and couldn't be more grateful the dog had stuck around. The crowd softened, listening to their heartfelt story, feeling the incredible dedication shared among the owner and dogs. Hearing their journey truly touched the crowd. Both dog and owner had been on a remarkable path. The owner explained how the previous dog had been left behind, and after adopting it, everything changed for the better. This close-knit family, stitched together by shared challenges, spoke of a bond that went beyond words. The officers recommended necessary steps for legal clarity, ensuring everything was in order for such a unique bond. With gratitude, the owner agreed to follow all procedures and instructions. The situation now seemed much clearer. As paperwork was prepared, folks focused on closing the investigation properly and justly. The environment shifted back to a calmer state, returning to normal with an added layer of understanding. Seeing balance restored helped everyone feel like their efforts led to a positive outcome, a resolution emerging slowly and peacefully. A wave of relief fell over everyone. The shared tension eased, replaced by mutual understanding of the extraordinary story. People began thanking each other for coming together, their willingness creating this transformed experience. What started as a tense situation turned into an unexpected lesson in empathy. The dog's determined watchfulness had brought strangers together as witnesses, solidifying the deep impact of what a loyal heart could achieve. After all the unexpected moments, the real story came out, bringing a peaceful end. The crowd saw how the dog's protectiveness, guided by instinct, brought hearts together. People who hadn't known each other before exchanged warm smiles. This furry protector and the tiny puppy he sheltered truly united everyone in the end. It was amazing how an animal's quiet resolve could touch so many lives and create a newfound connection. Such an intense moment finally turned into a heartfelt tale. The loyalty courageously displayed by the dog became a topic of appreciation among everyone present. As people started leaving, they took with them more than just a memory of today. They found lessons in compassion and the power of caring deeply for another. The cars pulled away, but the impression left by the events didn't fade, touching everyone there profoundly. A regular day turned unexpectedly meaningful, leaving everyone with a unique lesson in kindness to carry with them. The brutal heat lost its grip over the parking lot, which, for a moment, was more than just an expanse of tar. It stood as a symbol of unity, a connection woven between strangers through shared empathy. Everyone present drew unforgettable inspiration, reminding them of kindness's quiet strength echoing in ordinary life.